Hello, everyone. Give a few minutes to let everyone join in the meeting. Just a heads up, this meeting is being recorded as well, just so that you're aware. How's everyone doing today?
Good. It's beautiful out, even though
It
we're
is
at
nice
work.
out. Right, right. We just have to sit inside and look at how nice everything is outside.
Basically, yes, but but it helps.
It does, yeah. To know that when we leave, it's going to be nice. When we go out, it's not going to be dark or cold or also really hot. Kind of
Yes, there's hope there.
perfect temperature today. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started here. I don't want to take up too much unnecessary time. So it looks like everyone's pretty much starting to join. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Corey Stutz. I am the Program and Operations Director here at United Way of Licking County. And I want to thank all of you for joining this training session. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. If you aren't asking a question or if you aren't speaking, if you could make sure that your microphone is muted. I will keep everyone open to the availability of unmuting themselves and speaking. So if you have questions during the presentation, please feel free to just ask those questions. This is going to be a pretty informal session. So if you have a question in the moment and you want to ask it, please go ahead. That won't bother me at all. If you would rather type something in the chat box, you can do that as well. I'll do my best to pay attention to that, but if I have to go back at the end and catch any questions, I will do that as well. So I am going to just take a minute to kind of have everyone come around and introduce themselves, just at least say your name and where you're from, which organization you're representing. So first on my screen is Ashley, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, hello, Ashley Washburn. I'm the Executive Director of Family Health Services.
All right, thanks, Ashley. Sylvia.
Sorry, I had to drag my mouse all the way over there. Sylvia Friel with Licking County Children and Family First Council. Hello.
Thanks, Sylvia. Kristen.
I am Kristen McLeod. I'm Executive Director of Pathways of Central Ohio.
Great, thanks, Kristen. Cheryl, looks like you're next on my screen.
I'm Cheryl Hosher. I work with Pathways of Central Ohio.
Great, thanks, Cheryl. And Seth, I know you're not an applicant, but Seth is joining us from United Way of Licking County. Seth, would you like to just introduce yourself?
Yes, good to see everybody. Seth Doblar, Campaign and Resource Director for United Way of Licking County. Just coming on to listen, and so I'm up to date with everything that's going on the community impact side of things. I'll be reaching out with most of you within the next month or so to run work within your respective organization. So just here to listen and see what Corey has to tell us.
Thanks, Seth. Kelly.
I'm Kelly Campbell, representing the Woodlands and the Center for New Beginnings.
Great, thanks, Kelly. How about Carrie?
Hi, everybody. Carrie Penland from Whole Living Recovery.
Thanks, Carrie. Phil?
Good afternoon, everyone. Phil Casby with LAP.
Thanks, Phil. Heather?
Hey, I am here representing the Buckeye Valley Family YMCA.
Thank you. Looks like next is Pam.
Hello, I'm Pam Roberts. I'm the Executive Director at Together We Grow Community Gardens.
Thanks, Pam. Anne, you're next.
To go out and find myself to unmute. My name is Ann Baylog. I'm the program coordinator at the Licking Park District.
Great, thanks, Anne. How about Susan?
I'm Susan. I am with Boy Scouts.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie from Whole Living Recovery.
Thanks, Stephanie. How about Michelle?
Good afternoon. I'm Michelle Gotchlick with the American Red Cross.
Great, thank you. Pauline, you're next.
Hi, I'm Pauline Stevenson, president of the Carol Straughn Center.
Thanks, Pauline. How about Alicia?
Hi, I'm Alicia from Catholic Social Services.
Thank you, Alicia. Sharon, you're next.
Hi, I'm Sharon Janisek. I'm here representing the Salvation Army. I work with Lieutenant Caitlin.
And finally, Kate.
Hi, this is Kate. I'm with the Licking County Health Department.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for doing that. I know after a while, we're all used to the Zoom thing and sometimes you don't want to speak up, but I think it's great for us all to be familiar with each other. Also, I'm new in my position. Those of you who have applied in the past, you wouldn't have worked with me before, although many of you might know me from other places that I've worked or just being in the community. So it's a pleasure to get to meet all of you, those who I don't know. It's wonderful to meet you and it's good to see some familiar faces as well. I just want to give a couple of brief things before we get into the actual training. So I am going to share with you some United Way updates, a couple of things to keep on your radar. I'm sure you've seen emails from me so far about some of our upcoming programs. Specifically, I wanted to mention our Week of Caring, which is coming up. It'll be here before we know it. Week of Caring this year is September 10th through September 18th. We're having our kickoff event on the 10th, which is at the Canal Market. There will be food. It will be a good time, good to see each other. So those of you who are planning to attend that, I think several of you have marked on your, anybody who submitted program applications, there's a place to mark that. So speaking of those project applications, if any of you have not submitted projects yet, we're still collecting projects for the Week of Caring. If there's something that you would like to have done, something that volunteers can easily work on at your organization, we are very happy to have those projects submitted. So in order to submit a project, you do need to complete the application. I am guessing most of you have probably seen that in your email, but if you don't have a copy of that, if you'd like to apply, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to send you a copy of that. We are accepting those until next Monday. So we'll be accepting those applications and you can request whatever number of volunteers you think you'll need to complete your program or your project. So please do go ahead and submit those if you're planning to. A few other things to keep in mind coming up here in just a couple of weeks. August 14th, we are going to have a 5K. We are hosting, it's called Red, White, and United. It's in Pataskala. 8 a.m. on the 14th, and you can register for that as well. And also August 29th, at the end of this month, we are going to be holding a motorcycle ride throughout Licking County called Ride United. That will also be another fundraiser for the United Way of Licking County. Additionally, we are in the midst of our campaign right now. Seth, do you have any campaign updates that you'd like to share with the group? I'm going to put you on the spot.
No, no specific campaign updates. Our campaign runs officially from July 1 through December 31st, but we're really looking to run most of our workforce campaigns kind of in the end of August through September and October. So a lot of you have already met with me or talked with me about your organizations, and I'll just be following up and we'll be getting those underway here in the next month or so.
Great, thank you, Seth. Something else that is important to note before we get into the actual training part of this. So once we start, you'll notice that this funding cycle is slightly different than our previous funding cycles. And that's because we have switched from a split fiscal year to a calendar fiscal year. So the funding that this application cycle is for will actually be for calendar year 2022. In the past, we've funded from a July to June fiscal year. Those of you who are previous applicants, the most recent thing you will remember would have been that extension funding which covered the second half of 2021 from July through December. So now that caught us up to the final phase of our transition, which is now to be fully in our calendar year. So the funding that we're applying for, this is funding for 2022. I know it might get a little confusing sometimes because we're in 2021, but we're actually applying, this is the application for 2022. So I just wanted to clarify that so that there's no confusion. If you're wondering why you keep seeing 2022, that's the reason. So funding will run from January through December of 2022. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can just jump right in here. Okay. So just to get started, this is going to be an entirely online application process. So in order to apply, you'll be able to find the link through our website. So if you go to our website, which is unitedwaylc.org, at the top, there's a community impact tab, and that takes you to our community impact landing page. Right now, there is information that's mentioning when the application process will open, that kind of stuff, when it will close. But once the application does open, which will be this Friday, August 6th, there will be a link to where you can apply. There will also be additional documents that you'll need to download to upload as your attachments. So again, if you've applied in the past, you probably remember, the attachments that we had you fill out. There are some forms that we have, and then some other things that you'll need to attach with your application. So you'll be able to get that stuff here, and you'll also be able to access the link to apply. So when you click on that link, it takes you to EC Impact, which is the application portal that we use. So this will be entirely online. Again, as I said, in the past, you've had to fill out forms on that Excel form. You've had to kind of type things in, and this is sort of streamlining that process. So everything's all in one spot. It's all online. Those of you who did complete the extension funding last year, you will remember that you used EC Impact. So quite a few of you probably already have accounts through EC Impact. If you did use that, you won't need to create a new account. You'll be able to sign in with your credentials. If for whatever reason you don't remember your password, you can click forgot your password. But if you do remember your username and remember your password, you'll just sign in. The link that will be on our community impact page will take you to this sign-in page. So you'll be able to sign in right from here. But for the sake of anyone who's entirely new, I'm going to just go ahead and create an account as though I were a new agency applying. So some of these fields you'll notice are required, some of them are not. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through and fill out all of this. Obviously, there will be a lot of these things that you'll have the information ready to go, your mission statement, your vision statement, all of that kind of stuff. You're obviously just going to probably be copying and pasting from something else. But I'm going to go ahead and create my agency here, Corey Stutes Agency, a really great agency, if I have to say. So some of the required information, you have to fill in an address. You need to put contact information, phone number, that kind of stuff. This is all pretty straightforward. Make myself the Chief Executive Officer. Okay, so for now, I fulfilled the minimum requirements, but you, of course, will go ahead and fill out every field that you can so that we can have as much information about your organization as possible. Again, if you have already applied through EC Impact for our extension funding, you've already got an account, so you won't have to go through this step. So I'm going to create all of my stuff here. And click next. So when you register for an account, you will choose which funding cycle to associate your account with. Those of you who are signing in, you'll see this as an option to apply once it goes live. Of course, right now, this is The final application will not say test in it, so you won't be looking for test community impact. You'll just look for community impact fiscal year 2022. So then I'm just going to review my information to make sure everything is correct. Complete my registration. You can print your registration summary if you would like to file that away. That's up to you. Okay, so I have registered. When you sign in, it'll take you to this starting page where you can see what the open processes are. So once you sign in and the application is officially open on Friday, you'll see just community impact fiscal year 2022 up here when you sign in. So since I haven't started on this, I can click here to get started. Also to note, there is some important information here. Again, just as a reminder, the deadline for the funding application is September 3rd, 2021. So it opens this Friday on the 6th, and you will have just about a month to complete that application. So just to orient you with this screen, there are instructions up here, just some information about the funding cycle. Just says that you will receive funding through 2022, through the end of December of 2022. Some general notes here about saving your responses on your application forms, when you can move around, that kind of thing. And here is another section that's very important. So it's important to note that when you are applying for community impact funding, we will be funding programs. So you need to create a specific program for us to fund. If you have multiple programs at your organization that are applying, you can create multiple programs and apply for each program individually. And we'll get into that in just a second to see how you can submit those individual program applications. Down here at the bottom, this is the beginning of the application. So it's broken into agency level forms and then program level forms. So as of right now, I have not created a program. You have to do that in order to submit your application fully in order to actually apply for funding. But if I wanted to go ahead and start filling out my organization forms, I could, but I want to go ahead and create a new program. So if you notice, the instructions here says assign programs to this test community impact funding application. At least one program is required for this application for funding. Each program seeking funding will require creation and subsequent applications specific to that program. So to add a program to this application, select a program from the drop-down, that is if you've already registered programs, or if there is no drop-down displayed, select create a new program. So I'm going to create a new program. I'm going to use a very basic name here. Now choose a priority. We do fund specific priority areas. So whether your program, whatever it fits into, that's what you're going to choose. So you will choose one priority area. I'm going to go with children, youth, and families. And provide a program description. Yours, of course, will be much more in-depth. Just for the sake of being able to submit most of these, I'm going to just put the bare minimum of information. I am the primary contact. And fill in all of my address, phone number, all of that kind of stuff. Save and complete registration. So again, this gives you a rundown of when the funding cycle is. Deadline for submission is September 3rd, 2021. So I will complete my registration. Okay, so my request has been submitted. An email confirmation has been sent to me, which I can see I just got that email. So I will continue. So now if I scroll down to the bottom, remember originally there was just these four forms. Now I have a variety of others. So the way that this is broken down, you might be looking at this and be thinking, wow, there's a lot of things to apply there for. So rather than getting one big packet that's 30 pages, each section is broken down into an individual form. So it's kind of convenient because you can gauge your progress throughout the form a little bit easier that way. You can see what you've completed, what you still need to work on. When you start on something, it's color coded. So right now, since I haven't started, everything's red. Once I start, it'll turn to yellow for in progress. And then if it's completed and submitted, it will be green. So I'm just going to work down the line and start filling out my information. So I'm going to start at organization information. Now these first four are sections that relate to your agency. So this is not on the level of your specific program that you're applying for. These are things that relate to your agency. So you're going to go through and fill out your information, fill out your organization mission. How do the programs fit into your organization's mission and long-range goals? Put in your EIN number. Whoops. And fill out all of this information. So you're going to continue to go down through. And then there are some things that you need to agree to. So display United Way of Licking County symbol on all funded program collateral, such as fundraising flyers, website, newsletters, annual report, et cetera, et cetera. So you'll agree to that. You'll agree to provide us with some success stories. You're going to like some of our social media. You will display a funded partner window cling, help support us at fundraisers and awareness events. You're agreeing to run an annual workforce campaign, promoting Licking County campaign, provide speakers for related events, and you will agree to allow tours of your facility. There are some additional funding opportunities that we apply for. So if you would like to allow us to use some of the information that you provide from your organization as part of that, you can check these boxes as well. So then if you're finished, you can save work and mark as completed. Now, I haven't filled out all of the required forms or required sections. So if I do that, you can see I had some issues. So I typed in a random EIN number. It's telling me that that's invalid because I just made something up. And it will also tell you if there's anything that you missed that was required. So since I know that this is not actually completed, I'm just going to save my work and return to the previous page. Oops. Okay, so now you can see it's changed to yellow because it's in progress. Once it was completed, it would be green and it would say that it was submitted. Organization financial narratives. So we're going to put in what is the current fiscal year? What is the ending month of the current fiscal year? So whatever fiscal year you're on, you're going to put the current of that. I'm just going to say 12/21. Oops. What is the most recently completed fiscal year? So just for the sake of this example, I will just say 12/20. And what's the prior year to that? So again, this is going to start to ask you questions. So you will be asked to upload a budget and some additional financial information as an attachment to your application. That streamlines this application process a little bit rather than going through and determining how the fields that we've asked fit into your budget and filling those out. We're allowing you to just upload your budget as an attachment, but there are some questions about your budget. So those will be relating to any of that. So please explain any material changes or trends to revenue expenses. You'll fill in the appropriate answers for your organization. Again, go through, explain any deficit over $2,500. Have there been any changes to your fiscal year end this year? Does your organization provide grants to for-profit entities? Answer yes or no. Have there or will there be any major changes to your articles of incorporation or bylaws during this fiscal year? And then you're going to go through and discuss another one of the uploads that we asked for, which is a balance sheet. So you're going to go through and answer questions relating to that. Again, you're not going to be answering just a one-word answer. Most likely, you're going to be providing answers that are relevant to your organization. So now that I filled everything in, I'm going to save my work and mark as completed. So I had everything done. So now this says completed, ready to submit. Organization fiscal requirements. This is a pretty easy one. It's going to be a lot of check boxes. So it's asking you specific questions. You have liability coverage for directors and officers, liability insurance, whistleblower policy, determined compensation for key personnel by review and approval of its board of directors using comparable data, et cetera, et cetera. You have a non-discrimination policy. You have a written conflict of interest policy, drug-free workplace policy, and so on and so on. So these are asking you specific questions to agree to. A lot of these are about the basic operation of your organization. What types of policies do you have in place? Questions about your 990. Okay. So you're going to go through, and not all of these are required as well. So it's important to note if there's an asterisk next to it, that's a required one. And then there are some that are not required that you're going to choose which is the right answer for you based on your organization. Some of these are relevant to your revenue, that type of thing. So you'll choose the ones that are appropriate for you. The board of directors regularly reviews its policies. How often? So if you have a set policy review schedule, you're going to put how often that is. I'm going to say every 3 years. And then your organization does not engage in political campaigns. Okay, so I have completed that one. So what happens once I go through an entire section? So if I had finished this one, it's completed, ready to submit, and then I completed all of my application attachments, I'll be able to submit that portion of the packet. So I mentioned that there are some attachments, application attachments, and it's probably a good idea once you first sign in, once you associate your program to the application, you're going to want to go ahead and check out the list of attachments, because there are going to be some things that you'll need to gather to get together in order to upload. As I mentioned, there are forms that we'll need you to download from our website that you can fill out. And then a lot of the attachments will be things that you're uploading that are specific to your organization. So on the agency level, we have some attachments that are required. We have your most recent 990, a board roster. We have a diversity and inclusion statement that is from the United Way. So that's one of the things that you will need to download and complete. Audited financial statements. You'll notice this one is not marked as required, but if you have that information, please upload it. Please, anything that's relevant that you do have, you can upload. Most recent operating budget. Counterterrorism compliance form. That's something that we'll have you download that you will fill out. Supplemental fundraising activity form is another download. Attorney General charitable solicitations registration. There's a link for information about that. 501c3 status IRS letter of determination. A certificate of coverage for your organization's liability insurance and for your directors and officers liability insurance. We have the United Way of Licking County Statement of Agreement, which is another form that will be downloaded that you'll fill out. And then there are a variety of policies. So you will upload your organization's policies for each one of these. Minutes from your 3 most recent board meetings. You'll notice there's only one section here. So if you could combine those, it'll only allow you to upload one document to that section. So if you combine your 3 most recent board meeting minutes into one document, you can upload them there. Constitution and bylaws, your employee handbook, criminal background policy. So now we get to some financial statements. So as I said, we do not have those as forms that you're filling out as part of the application. There are now attachments. So you can simply upload an income statement or a statement of financial activities, whichever terms you use to describe that in your organization. Upload one for the current year, upload one for the previous year, and upload one for 2 years prior. Now, if your organization is not 2 years old, if you were just recently organized, then in these areas, these are required uploads. So you can upload a statement that verifies the date of your organization's establishment just to fulfill the requirement to upload something. And then we have balance sheets or statement of financial position, which follow that same format. So you will upload all of these attachments. So then if I had completed that, it would say that I'm ready to submit, and it will allow me to then submit that part of my application. So then I can move down to my program information. So this is really where the bulk of the application is, because as I said, we are funding programs. So we want to make sure that we get plenty of information about your program. So I can start on program information. When I created my program, I selected children, youth, and families as my priority area. It's just here again. So if you had made a mistake, or if you decided, well, really it's more about poverty, there is the opportunity to change that. So the forms are going to be a variety of filling in narratives. There will be some drop-down menus, and there's a variety of ways that you're going to put in your information. So describe how the program addresses the priority selected. Since I chose children, youth, and families, I would use this space to talk about how does my program aid children, youth, and families. I might say what types of activities I have, what type of programming I have. Anything that's pertinent to that is going to go in this area. Program funding request is an important section. You're going to put in the amount of funding that you are asking for. So let's say for my specific program, I'm asking for $40,000. Again, that is just you saying this is how much funding I'm requesting. Now, ultimately, the funding decisions are made by our community impact panels. There are panels that focus on each of the focus areas, and they will determine the funding amounts that are finally awarded based on the amount of money that there is in the pool to give out, the amount of requests, all of those types of things. So they take all of that into consideration. So this is simply your request amount. The final award will be dependent upon the, like I said, all of those factors. Time frame for program activities. So you're going to put in your time frame. This is talking about, is this specific to a certain time of year? So maybe you have a program that only runs during the summer. Maybe it's June through July. And again, we're speaking of fiscal year 2022. So if you want to say June 2022 to August 2022, specific dates, or if it's the entire calendar year, you're going to put in whatever your time frame is for your program. Is this a new or established program? Have you previously received United Way of Licking County funding for this program? Again, that's not for your agency as a whole or for another program in your agency. It's asking about this specific program. Again, when we registered our program and asked for a program summary, so it's auto-filled what I said about my program. My program is a great program. Hopefully your description will be slightly more in-depth than that. But you can rewrite whatever is put in. You can add to it whatever you'd like to do. So then it says indicate if approach used is evidence-based or best practice model. So this is asking about when you're developing your programming and you are developing your program in the beginning, are you using specific scientific evidence to back up the reasoning behind that? Or is it best practices that are specific to your field? So you can select that there. And there are going to be areas in the attachments where you can upload validation tools. So if you have any sort of documents that go along with that, if you have instruments that you use to measure your outcomes that you use to measure your progress. You can upload those there. So there are a couple of places you'll see where it references validation tools. And that's what that's asking for. And the average length of programming for a typical client. So if someone is only engaging with your program for a set amount of time, or if it's certain years, age, grades, whatever that is, you'll put that in there. And then if you had completed, you would go ahead and submit. Next section is marketing. So this says provide information that illustrates the benefit of a weekly donor contribution to your program. This information may be included in the United Way of Licking County's marketing collateral. Please write in language that a layperson would understand, such as no industry terms or abbreviations. Include the service, units, and benefit, such as $2 per week provides an adult or child with such and such days of transitional housing and supports them. Support that helps them obtain permanent housing. So whatever that type of thing may be relative to your program. So $2 per week might provide pencils for a student to engage in your programs, or it might provide deodorant or hygiene supplies or something like that. One hygiene supply for one person, or whatever's relevant to your program. $5 per week will be slightly more. You can choose what that will provide, and then $10 per week. So again, these are for marketing purposes to say what the impact of funding would be on your program, what it would be able to provide. Marketing target population demographics. You notice there are 2 of these, and it's simply because there are more areas than what fit on one form. So these are your demographics that you're serving specific to Licking County. And this is broken down not by zip code, but by school district. So each of these is a school district: Granville, Heath, Johnstown, Lakewood, Licking Heights, and Licking Valley. And as I said, there are 2 of these forms. So the rest of the school districts in Licking County are in the other form. So you would put your total number of clients from each of these school districts. If you don't have any, then you can put 0. You will put the number of whatever you have. Broken down by gender, age, and then ethnicity. So even though this is broken down by school districts, again, this is not relative to just school children. This is just how everything is broken down. Kristen, did you have a question? You go ahead and unmute yourself.
I may have missed. Did you say what the time frame was on this part? Is it like what is the year, or is it like an annual amount you want?
Yeah, so these are the clients that you're serving. If you have information for the clients that you're serving right now, you can go ahead and do that. If you have the clients that you served in the previous funding cycle, previous funding year, maybe you probably have up-to-date information on your most completed fiscal year. So you would put that in.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for that question. So then again, if you don't have information for all of these, if you don't serve people in specific school districts, you would just put a 0 so that you can fill in that form. Although I think it will still allow you to mark this as completed if you don't fill in a field. So if you leave it blank, I think it might still let you submit that form. And then again, as I said, the other half, these are just the rest of the school districts. There is also a section, if you do serve individuals who are outside of Licking County, you'll put that information there. Next section, titled Coordination and Accessibility. This is where you're going to talk about any collaborative partners that you have with your program. So right now, this looks pretty brief, but once we start putting in some information, new fields will open up. So down here, it says, describe how the program collaborates with other organizations as opposed to duplicating services or competing for clients. Select the number of collaborating partners, then for each, name the collaborative partner. Select all that partner provides, state how this benefits the program, explain any agreements, describe other, if that's checked. So let's just say I have one collaborative partner. Here you're going to list who that partner is. So if I partner with another organization for programming, maybe for some sort of service support or whatever, contract with an individual to do something at my program, I'm going to put that information in here. And then I can say, well, what type of partnership is this? Are they an advisor? Are they providing donations to me? Are they a funder? Maybe we share a space or we're sharing services. They're providing referrals to my program. Maybe they're providing volunteers. And then again, if neither of those fit, you can click other, and then you can say what type of partnership this is. It's going to have you describe how the partnership benefits your program. Explain any agreements that are in place. So if you have a special agreement relating to the partnership, maybe they are able to use your facility as well, and then they provide some program services to you, or whatever that type of might be, you were going to put that in there. Looks like 2 people have raised their hands. Does anyone want to unmute and go ahead and ask a question?
Yeah, this is Sylvia. We have over 104 partners that work with our family teams. Can I group them somehow, like through the mental health organizations, and list them? Or
you know what? Because I think it'll only allow you to actually, it goes up to 15, I think, is the maximum number. So you should be able to, if there are any that you work with the most, if you wanted to prioritize those, that would be my suggestion. But because it is asking for specific partner names, so I think it will be difficult unless you did group them by, if they have categories where they group and then you wanted to list them in one of these fields and mention that. My only fear would be that it would be difficult to then really describe because the characters are limited in each box. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So I'm not sure, Sylvia, if you would be able to prioritize the top partners in your program or not, if that's something that would be relevant or applicable. There is also, I will say, additional spaces in the attachments. So I left, I think, 4 or 5 spaces where you can upload attachments. So if you wanted to expound on that, if you had more than 15 partners, you could actually also upload that information as a document to one of the attachments. So that might actually be a better option. You can make a note in one of your fields, or just include it as an attachment and say, these are actually more partners that we serve. Hopefully that answers your question.
yeah, it does. Thanks.
And then was there someone else with another question?
I'm sorry, somehow my hand went up. And
No worries.
I think it was in sympathy with Sylvia. I don't know.
There you go. Okay. All right. So remember, we did agree to share some success stories. So this is the success story page. Provide a brief local client success story or testimonial. We do ask that you provide at least one client testimonial. There are additional spaces for you to provide more if you would like. You can provide a volunteer local success story or testimonial. I know sometimes it might be difficult to get success stories, to get individuals who want to share their story, or maybe for confidentiality reasons, that might be difficult. So we do require one. Any beyond that are additional. I will also note that in the application attachments section, we do have promotional releases that you will need to fill out for each individual. So again, one promotional release is a required attachment to the application, but we do allow space for up to 4, since that's how many testimonies we ask for. Do we have another question?
Yeah, I raised my hand just to say that on the success story side of things, it is really, really helpful for me when I'm out raising dollars through our workforce campaigns to have those success stories. A lot of our corporate partners really like to see that. So when I'm out working and trying to raise some extra dollars for you guys, it does make it a big impact if we have good success stories listed there. So just wanted to add that in on the campaign side of things.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. All right, this section, pretty short and sweet, funding sources. This is going to where you can provide the funding sources for your program. So this is what it looks like. This is a different type of form than what we've seen so far. So right down here, it says add new funding source. So I'm going to click there. I'm going to say whatever my funding source name is. So maybe, let's see, I apply for money. I get money from the Ohio Department of Education. I'm going to go big, say I get $100,000. And then status. So let's say that I am currently using that for this fiscal year. I'm currently receiving my typing was not good on that. Okay, so save and return to previous page. That's pretty straightforward. You'll put in any additional funding sources that you receive for your program. Program budget narratives. So just like our organization budgets, we allow you to upload program budgets rather than filling out forms on this application that sometimes may or may not fit to the line items that you have on your budget. So since you're going to be uploading that as an attachment, we do ask for some narratives relating to your program budget. Describe any significant changes to the finances or budget of the program. Describe the extent to which this program offers services outside of Licking County. Does receipt of United Way of Licking County funding qualify your program to receive additional grant funding? Please explain. So if you're able to leverage other funding with the United Way of Licking County funding, we want to hear about that because that also helps us to know how is this funding impacting your program. Describe any successes, awards, or recognition that you received as well. So you're going to fill that out. Okay, this next section, logic model. This is where we're going to talk about the outcomes and objectives that you have achieved and maybe some that you plan to achieve. So there are some instructions here telling you what's going to happen here. So we're going to choose community outcomes to begin. So since I chose children, youth, and families, it is automatically giving me 3 outcomes that relate to that focus area. So let's say primarily I'm increasing opportunities for children, youth, and families to thrive. I think that sounds like maybe something I do in my program. If I'm not sure though, I can hover over it and it will actually tell me what specific objectives are going to be in there. So a number that have increased awareness and encourages use of available community resources, have increased accessibility to quality childcare, the number that have improved physical health, development, and well-being, number that have encouraging and strengthened healthy relationships. So I'm going to click that and say, yep, those are some of my objectives. Save and continue. So then any that I actually measure, I'm going to go through and select the ones that I measure. Now we have some questions about this. So for the upcoming year, so that's talking about fiscal year 2022, how am I going to measure the outcomes and results? So I'm going to say I use a survey form. However you measure your objectives. Describe how individuals in the measurement sample are selected, your process for collecting, inputting, and reporting. So how are you selecting the people that you're measuring? You know, if you were using a specific sample size, if you're measuring everybody in your program, that type of information. If the program doesn't measure every individual served, provide the number of individuals who comprise the measurement sample. So if you are serving maybe thousands of people or hundreds of people, too many than you can conceivably measure, how are you meeting your measurement standards that you've set for yourself so that you can measure your outcomes? How are you measuring your key performance indicators? What's the standard used to determine your sample size? If your national organization mandates a sample size, please provide this information here. Again, that's if you're mandated to measure a certain number of individuals, you're going to provide that information. Please provide a name and description of the instrument used to measure the outcomes. You're going to be asked, is this tool evidence-based? If no, why is the tool selected? Why do you use that tool? Just so you can say, is that something that you created based on your experience, or however did you come up with that measurement tool? And then describe your program improvement plans to address outcomes that were not achieved. If you didn't meet your objectives, what's your plan to make sure you meet those? So it's important to note that it will ask you these questions for every outcome that you select. So it does allow you to select multiple outcomes, and we'll see that in just a second once we complete this. So remember, when I selected outcomes, then I chose those 3 objectives. So here's where I can say the total number of individuals who met that objective. So I'm going to say total number of clients served by program. We have previous funding year, current funding year, and target for upcoming funding year. So this is the information here for this year. If I served 100 clients, and my measurement, there's a little box here that's telling you some instructions, but if you can't remember what objective we're talking about, this is the number that have increased awareness and encouraging use of available community resources. So let's say out of my total program, I serve 100 people. 50 of those people met that objective. Last year, maybe I had 80 and it was 30 people. My goal next year, I hope to serve 120 people. And I hope 120 of them meet that objective. So then you're going to go through for each of those objectives that you chose. If you forgot some, you can select a new objective measure. It'll only show you the ones that you haven't already selected. So then once I'm finished, I can go ahead and save my work and mark as completed. Since I didn't actually do anything, I'm just going to go back. So maybe I realized, well, there's more things that I measured, or I saw another outcome that seemed like it was relevant. So you can choose another outcome. It will only allow you to choose one at a time. So if you actually measure objectives that are within all of these, you can go back each time and select whichever one are remaining. So then maybe I provide utility assistance, provide food. And again, it's asking these same questions now that relate to this outcome, filling in the information for these objectives, and so on and so forth. So you can select all of the outcomes that are pre-assigned to your focus area. You can select all of the objectives if you're measuring all of those and have data on that. It really is dependent upon your program, what of those items you're going to choose. Here at the bottom, we have program defined outcomes. So if I click on create a new program defined outcome, it says use this space to define your program's outcomes if you addressed and measured distinctly different outcomes than the predefined objectives provided. Please state your proposed outcome indicators and the actual outcome results. So if I'm also measuring things that are beyond what was asked in this list, I'm going to go ahead and put this here. I would type in whatever that is. I would state how many individuals achieved that objective versus how many people I served in my program. So there's a rough percentage there. Any sort of information that's relevant to those outcomes, you can do that. So then once that's completed, I'll go back to the overview page. Program description. These are going to be some more narratives that it's asking you to fill in relative to your program and its purpose. So provide a brief description of the activities such as curriculum, staff, et cetera, that will be used to address the objectives stated in your logic model. So the logic model was the section that we just did. So where we were stating the objectives, the outcomes that we achieved, any of those other additional measurable things that we included in that. You're going to talk about the activities that correlate with those objectives. Describe how the activity addresses the priority area selected. Indicate if the approach is evidence-based or is a best practice model, along with a validating resource, which you can upload in the attachments. If it's evidence-based, is it operated with fidelity? It's asking you to explain. Also provide the average length of programming for each service or activity. Describe how United Way of Licking County funds will be used to support the program, and provide any additional information that you would like to include that will assist the community impact panel in understanding the program activities and objectives. So there's a space here for you to type that in. You'll notice these boxes do have a character limit. The character limit on these is 4,000 characters, which is not too short, but if you have pages and pages of information, it's not going to allow you to have that much. So if you would like to include additional information that is greater than the amount that will fit in this box, again, you will utilize one of those available attachments that are just put up for anything that you would like to include. So that was the last one in terms of these program forms. My very final thing is the program attachments. So just as we had organization level attachments, these are attachments that relate specifically to your program. So I had mentioned there are success story photos. So since we allow space for 4 success stories, there is space for 4 photos, but we do only require 1 because we require 1 success story. These are areas where you can upload your validation tools. So again, if whatever instruments you're using to measure your objectives, anything that validates the functions behind your program, this is space for you to upload those. United Way of Licking County promotional release. This is something that will be downloaded from our community impact page. And again, you will need 1 of these for each person that's used in the marketing success stories. Again, only 1 of them is required because only 1 success story is required. But if you uploaded additional ones, you do need a promotional release for each individual. Going to upload a current program budget. Upload an income statement or statement of financial activities for your program. So we ask this information for your agency as well. These are going to be specific to your program for current year, previous year, and 2 years previous. Again, if your program is brand new and you don't have income statements for previous year or for 2 years ago, please just upload something that verifies the date of your program's establishment so that it will satisfy the requirement for an attachment in this slot. Balance sheet or statement of financial position. Again, this is specific to your program, current year, previous year, 2 years prior. And then these are your optional attachment sections. So there are 3 optional attachments that you can include. Again, if, like Sylvia said, you work with way more partners than 15 and you would like to include all of the information for those, you can combine that into a document and upload it. If you have additional information that you would like to provide about your program, if it's more than 4,000 characters and does not fit in that last box that we looked at, you can use one of these attachments. If you have any sort of research to back up your program that you think would be beneficial for the panel to know, you can upload that there. So really, this is up to your discretion. Anything that you think that the community impact panel should know or needs to know about your program, you can use these optional attachments to do that there. So then once you complete everything, if I had actually filled in every space and completed it and everything was completed and ready to submit, then it would allow me to submit my application. So I would go ahead and submit the application. It's going to notify me and the community impact panels that you've submitted your application so that then we can proceed from there. So that does wrap it up about the actual application process. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen just so that I can see everyone. And I will go ahead and note there will be some changes to the process afterwards. So if you have applied for and received funding in the past, you will remember that after you submitted your application, there was a process of site visits and then also panel reviews. So obviously we have all collectively been through something very traumatic throughout 2020, and we're all sort of trying to stabilize and regain our ground from that. And the community impact panel is very aware of that. We want to make sure that this application process produces as little stress and as little strain on your calendar as possible. So the idea this year is that we are actually going to be combining site visits with the panel reviews. So once you've submitted your application, we will work with you to schedule site visits so that members of the impact panel, community impact panel that relates to your focus area will be able to visit your site or your location, talk with you that way. If you have a program that's specific to only a certain time of year and you're not operating during that time, we'll work with you to make adjustments for that. So at this time, we are at 3 o'clock, but if you have any questions, I would like to open it up to questions at this point in time. I know that was a lot of information, so you might just be processing that, but does anybody have any questions?
If it was toward the beginning of what you were talking about, some of the check boxes, like we don't have a 990 because we're a government entity. And in the past, I would just type up a statement as to why we don't have a 990 and upload that. Is that still how you would like me to do it?
Yeah, so if it is a required box, you will have to check the checkbox just to be able to complete that part of the application. But then in the attachment where it asks you to upload your 990, if you then just wanted to put that documentation explaining why you don't have a 990, you can do that there. I will also note one of the application attachments has 2 versions, and you'll see that once you download them. There's one that's for government bodies, and then there's one that's non-government agencies. So you'll want to make sure that you fill in the one that's appropriate for your organization as well. And you'll see that once you download those.
Corey, once we
forms.
get started in this and we do have a question or two, are you the right person to contact?
Yes. So you can reach out to me. Again, if you don't have my contact information, I assume I've probably been in contact with all of you through email. You can reach out to me. My email is cstutes@unitedwaylc.org. You can always give us a call at the office as well. You can call in 345-6685. That information is on our website as well. So please reach out to me if you have a question. I'm more than happy to help you with your questions. Like I said, I know that it can sometimes be stressful applying for grant funding. And so my hope and the goal of the community impact panels is that we relieve as much of that stress as possible. So if you get hung up on anything, if you have questions, if you're not sure what something's asking, or you're just confused about something, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help you out with that.
Corey, if we have questions, or let's say other people ask questions that you think would help the group, is there a possibility of posting those with an answer? You know, like if you seem to be getting 2 or 3 questions from, the same question.
Yeah, so what I can do, there's a couple of ways that I can do that, and I guess we can decide what would be the easiest. But if I'm getting a lot of the same questions, I can either send out an email to previous funded partners and those who have applied as well. I'm happy to do that and say, if you're having this question, this has been coming up a lot, here's an answer. I should also, I can check and see if there is a place where I can post that within EC Impact. As I mentioned, I'm also a new staff member, so I'm still learning about EC Impact as well. I know that I can add some communications on there, so that might also be an option. But really, if there's something that's a question that keeps coming up, I should be able to also clarify that within the instructions on that actual form as well.
Thank you.
So I think we'll just take that as it comes, and this just depends on the nature of the question, kind of determine what the best thing is. But I do want to make it as easy as I can on everyone. So. Okay. I've been in your shoes before, and I've applied for this application before many years ago. So I know what it's like. Any other questions?
I just want to add one comment that I absolutely love this online version. It's so much easier. I mean, there's still all the stuff is required still, but it's so much easier just to do it online like this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback, Pam. I'm glad that really was a deciding factor, I think, for the United Way to move toward this online portal through EC Impact. It's less paperwork to have to keep track of. Once you start downloading everything, it gets a little confusing. So it is definitely more streamlined. So I appreciate your comment.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Just to clarify, the budget pages and the balance sheets and everything, those are what we use at our agency. You're not prescribing the format anymore.
Right. Yes. So we're allowing you to upload. Before, there used to be fields that you would fill in, and they're not always relevant to everyone. Sometimes there are a lot of things on there that maybe a smaller program might not even relate to them at all. So we're allowing you to upload your budget for your organization and for your program, and then your individual income statements and balance sheets as they relate to your program. So the idea is that will be a little easier on everybody since those are likely already created. And it'll give the panels a little bit of a better picture of the full scale of your financial position.
Will the recording of this training be available?
It will, yes. Yeah, so the training is being recorded. My plan is to send it out via email, and then it should also be posted on our community impact page where all the rest of that information will be as well. So you will be able to reference this later if you want to come back to this video, or if someone else did not get a chance to join live today, feel free to send it over to them too. So I don't know exactly when this recording will be made available. I'm not sure how long it takes for it to, buffer and download and all of that good stuff, but it should be available pretty soon. All right, any last questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, if anybody else doesn't have any questions, then we can go ahead and call it a day. If you think of anything, please don't hesitate to email me again. I can't stress that enough. I am more than happy to help you. I would love to answer your questions and help you out with whatever it is that I can aid you with. So please don't hesitate to reach out via phone or email. And again, thank you all for joining this afternoon, and I will be in touch. Thanks, everyone. Bye.